Have you ever imagined yourself on the street, helpless, and all of a sudden the threat comes from nothing? Maybe it's a scene that you'd never expect it, but who for some reason, it could happen to any of us. Imagine if you will walk in peace with their daily routine and a backpack on his back, his head full of thoughts, when all of a sudden, everything changed. A dog is aggressive. It appears loose, grunting loudly, teeth bared, and a sense of fear pervades his breast. You try to back down, only to find that there's no way for me to go. At this point, the only hope is you and the mortal danger it with your own dog, the one that has always been his faithful companion. But now it has taken on a much more important role. It is the one true protector. Have you ever gone through something like this? In this situation, it seems the output of the movie. But trust me, it's stories like this that happen in the real world, and many of them showed a courage that surprised even the most skeptical. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out right now might surprise you, touch your heart, and refresh your knowledge of our dogs are not just pets. Do they have a truth that defies all logic, and a bravery born of the instinct of self-protection and unconditional love? When we think of dogs, and is usually imagined that the companions of the times, to play and to cuddle. But there are times when that loyalty is manifested in a way that very few can understand it. And this is a story that I am going to share is the living example of courage, strength, and love. You'll see how, in the face of a threat, often brutal, with a dog, a common, perhaps considered to be the only pet, and becomes a hero who risks it all to protect his master, even if that means facing the danger of the front teeth, barking, and the power that comes from within. In these times of extreme risk, and reveal the very essence of what it is to be true, what is true love, without asking for anything in return. And if you follow this, you will notice that many of the times, the true cost of a dog that is in the courage to be silent, in the rage hidden in his willingness to fight to the last breath for the ones you love. So, prepare yourself for a story that will thrill you, inspire you, and show you that sometimes the most powerful force comes from those who least expect it. Because, at the end of the day, what you're going to see now is a testament to the loyalty of a dog, knows no limits, and you love them. You may be able to save some lives. And then, at that moment, the hope began to rise in the hearts of all who followed this story. It seemed to be an almost spiritual level of awareness. Each and every detail of it seemed to make sense. It's as if the universe was conspiring in favor for those souls who, despite all of this, you still believe in the power of love and loyalty. The connection between a dog and their owner had turned himself into a real life lesson, and a reminder that even in the most difficult situations, the loyalty and the love, they can be the greatest weapon to overcome all obstacles. If you do, it's there on the other side of the screen, can be identified in this story, or if you felt moved by this demonstration of pure love, and I want to invite you to actively participate in this community. Leave here in the comments as to how this narrative has touched you, or to share an experience in which your loyalty and affection they have made all the difference in your life. Your feedback is valuable, and you inspire others to believe in the strength of the ties to the genuine ones. In addition, if the contents of it made sense to you and enjoy the video, it helps a little too much for us to continue bringing you stories that you want, and it strengthens our connection. And of course, if you want to watch more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Your participation is what makes this space to grow and to reach more people like you, believe in you, the love and the hope they can turn it all around us. So, it does not stop here. The journey is still just beginning, and many of the emotions that are still to come. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because they understand the true essence of this transformation is the one that really has made all the difference. Many times, people get stuck on the surface of it, believing that everything would be solved with a simple action or a change of the outside, but it's the truth hides behind all this is that the real exchange rate rises from the inside out. It is a journey of self-discovery, of finding out who you really are beyond the masks we wear to fit into a routine, in the company, or even by the expectations of others. When we pause to reflect on our choices, our beliefs, the more deep-rooted, we have started to see the impact we can have on the world. It depends, above all, of our way of thinking. It's as if every step you take, every thought and every feeling is to be a seed that we plant in our own history, influencing not only what happens to us, but how we react in the face of adversity. In the process process of discovery are the revelations that are often hidden in the bustle of daily life. The revelations that challenge our certainties, they invite us to question what we believe to be the truth. And that's when it all began to change. If you are unable to see beyond the surface, you realize that the reality is that we live in is, for the most part, a construct of our own making. Kind of like a mirror, which reflects our essence and our deepest emotions, it is clear that the impact that we make on the world and is an extension of our own journey of growth. It's not just the actions of the surface, but with a real change of mindset, a change in the way we perceive it and how we look at life. The revelations that emerge from this process is often accompanied by a feeling of release, as if a curtain had been lifted, to reveal something that they have always been there, lurking in the shadows. It is at this point that we become more aware of the choices we make, the words that we speak, the actions we take. Each and every detail that happens to have a higher meaning and connection to the core of who we are stronger. In this connection, it is the basis of everything, for it is only when we are in alignment with who we really are we can have a real impact and long-lasting in our own history and as well as that of others. And at the same time, we realize that all of this is a path of self-discovery that is filled out by a series of behind-the-scenes, which often do not appear on the surface, but they are essential for the transformation to happen to you so true. The inside of the universe of signs, you start to realize that the real power lies in our ability to make decisions. Decide for yourself in addition to external influences, in addition to what we've been taught or what they think is the best. This time is that the shapes of the impact that we can make it, because it comes from a deep understanding that we are the main characters of our story. And at the same time, this understanding has made us realize that our decisions have a consequence. There is often invisible to others, but that is the echo of our actions, our emotions, and our relationships with the world around us. It is at this point that the journey is made even more fascinating, because it is no longer a search for the answers outside to make a search for the self. And in this quest, no matter how challenging it may be, it is the one that really speaks to the core of the most pure. When we are able to see beyond what the eyes can see, we begin to understand that true transformation happens in your mind, the way in which we interpret what happens to and in our willingness to change what needs to be changed. Thus, in each decision, an opportunity to evolve and expand our consciousness and make an impact that goes beyond our own limitations. It's as if, when you open the door to the inside, we're turning to a potential that was always there, just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And, in the process of self-discovery and transformation, we discovered that we are not alone in this journey. There is an invisible web of connections, and the stories of the intertwined that you tell us the impact that we make it higher than you can ever imagine. With each step, each decision, each of the revelation, and is part of the chain that ties into the universe in ways that oftentimes we can't even fully comprehend it immediately. But what really matters is the commitment to this evolution, the search for a true self, that you can measure everything around you, bringing hope, love, and light into the behind the scenes of our story. And it is precisely in alignment and in harmony with our deepest core, we find that the true power to change lives, including your own. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the journey of transformation is not simply a change of surface or in a decision-making moment. It's a genuine connection to what is beyond the words, beyond the visible actions. It is a reconnection of the soul, that inner voice that often gets hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and limitations, which have accumulated over the years. When we begin to understand the real impact happens when we align our thoughts, emotions, and actions with our deepest truth. It's all start making a whole new meaning. It's like we're waking up a force that had always been there, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. In the process, and the revelations of what seem to be small, in fact, it carries with it great strength. These details are small daily choices that, added together, to create a kind of a knock-on effect on our reality. Each and every decision that you make, however small it may seem, it is a stone that releases waves of the impact on our own self-awareness, and at the same time it influences everything around us, in our relationships, and the opportunities available to us, even in the way in which we perceive the world. This understanding leads us to a clearer perception of how our attitudes are deeply connected with the impact we make on our own transformation. During this journey, we are often faced with the the truth that is hidden by the back of our own limiting beliefs. This belief, which seems so solid, in fact, are like the invisible walls that prevent us from moving forward. The most fascinating part of it is that, as we begin to dismantle these barriers are built, we find that with the freedom that we have always been there, waiting for us to give the first step, the freedom to be who we truly are, without masks, without fear, and without the weight of the expectations of others. And that freedom is, in itself, is a powerful force that drives our development in a way that words can't fully describe. In the background, it's all about having the courage to face up to the truth that resides within each and every one of us. It's a matter of courage to let go of that which no longer serves us, leave behind what does not make sense in a way. And that courage is the key to unlocking a new world of possibilities. When you have that clarity, in what seemed impossible becomes just a matter of steps away from the small actions that, taken together, they build a new life. Because you are, in essence, the true. The transformation is not about changing who we are at one time or another, but rather to recognize and honor those who we have always been, and to allow the essence of flowers without the strings attached. And in that moment, you start to realize that everything around us reflects that change on the inside. All the signs, all the opportunities, all the meetings that seem to be better, everything comes together into a new perspective. It's as if the life was conspiring in favor for those who decide to connect to their deepest truth and therefore to expand the light. With each step taken in this direction, it is a revelation, a discovery that fuels our motivation to move forward. In the end, the journey is not a straight path, but it's a dance-off between the high and the low, between doubt and certainty, and between the fear of failure and the courage to try it again. And it is in this movement that we find the true essence of growth. The trend is not a magical formula, but in a constant decision to stay in line with what is most true in all of us. This is what allows us to see that everything is possible, and that change is a matter of intention and action, and that, ultimately, are the ones responsible for building up our own story with authenticity and courage. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about such a deep connection with their own soul. How do you see your journey so far? What are the thoughts, emotions, or decisions have been the biggest obstacles or the major catalysts for this transformation? Let those questions stand in the open air, because they are the first step towards a more profound reflection that it really does make a difference, and it opens the door to a new wave of self-knowledge and the impact of it. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too. I now want to go more in depth on this topic and explore how we are often our own worst enemies in the journey of transformation. It's amazing how the human mind has the power to create barriers that seem to be almost invisible, but in practice, it will block any real breakthrough. Have you ever noticed how sometimes just a simple question or a criticism of the inner can to undermine our trust? It is as if, deep down, we loaded up a kind of a saboteur is quiet, who dares to tell you that you're not able to, and that we are inadequate, or that is what we want to achieve is beyond our reach. And it's the most curious thing is that the saboteur is usually to be here for years to come, fueled by the experiences of the past, by limiting beliefs that we have learned in your childhood, or for a moment of frustration that we, as if they were of one mind. The stories that we tell to us the same end, and to mold our perceptions of the world, creating a sort of filter that distorts reality, and it reinforces the idea that we are not worthy or capable of far-reaching changes. It is like we are trapped inside a prison or invisible, made from the negative thoughts, doubts, and constant, and that only stops us from taking the next step in our evolution. But the biggest revelation is that lots of people come to discover along the journey but it's not real. It exists only in our mind. As a result of the narrative, we learn to accept it as true. And this is where comes the need for a change in mindset. When you begin to question those beliefs, analyze where they come from, and how to challenge what we have been taught, we have opened a door to an inner freedom that I never imagined to be possible. It is at this point that we begin to understand that our choices, no matter how difficult it may seem, you have the power to rewrite history, to break down the limit and create a new narrative, one that is based on the truth and the potential for real. This change in perspective is what truly impacts our journey. After all, the one that leads us on to the next, not only the outward actions or strategies, but above all, the power of a mindset that believes in the transformation. And that strength comes when we recognize that we are the authors of our own story. They were able to choose the path to decide for growth and embracing the vulnerability, such as a friend, not as a weakness. It is a process of self-knowledge and continuous. It is about having the courage to face your own shadows and the willingness to reinvent yourself each and every day. And when you do that, you start to see the impact of what we would like to make in the world. It starts first within ourselves, in the way that we see and believe in our potential. At that point, it becomes clear that the real change begins with the decision to challenge the truth of the hidden, which we carry. When we are able to see beyond our own limitations, we opened up the space to go on a journey of self-discovery, that it is, above all, a revolution on the inside. And it is this revolution that is capable of transforming everything around us, because when we change our mindset, we'll automatically have an effect on our actions, our decisions, and particularly the way that impactamos in the lives of those around us. It's like a string of opportunities that will only strengthen as we are liberated from the bonds of invisible that prevent us from moving forward. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation starts in the mind. But it does not limit itself to a simple positive thoughts or motivation in the moment. It would require a more in-depth understanding of our own beliefs, but for those patterns, which often don't even realize it, but that shape every decision, every action, every turn in the journey of life. And this is where it comes to the importance of uncovering the truth hidden by the back of our regular behind-the-choices that seem to be automatic, as if they were being programmed by something that's bigger than our conscious will. This kind of faith is often inherited from previous experience, references, family, or even just the culture that surrounds us, to create a sort of filter through which we interpret the world, and therefore behave in a way that reinforces this view. When you start to realize that influence is invisible, we have an opportunity for power to reprogram our mind, to rewrite the narrative that we tell ourselves, of course. It's not about denying the past, or that you skip all the difficulties, but rather to understand that the recognition of these limitations are built in. You can choose from a whole new perspective and a story that moves us rather than in the hold. It's a matter of deciding consciously to the values we nurture, what are thoughts that are going to make inroads into our daily lives, mental, and what are the emotions that we're going to grow. After all, that's the true transformation comes from a change in its internal structure, which reflects the impact of the external on the way in which we relate to the world and the people around you. This is a process of self-knowledge. It also reveals a behind the scenes of our own minds by showing that many of our actions and that they seem to be impulsive or no sense, and they have deep roots that need to be explored. When you immerse ourselves in the universe is built, we realize that in our own life story, the problem, we hope to put all of this will impact our daily decisions. But at the same time, we found out that we are primarily responsible for deciding what it will be in the next chapter. And that responsibility, although it may seem daunting at first glance, it is also liberating because it puts us in control of our own narrative. Each and every choice in life is an opportunity to build a new life, to create a version of ourselves that is in alignment with our dreams, more real. From this understanding, we can see that the change is not a one-off event, but a continuous journey of self-discovery and growth. Every little decision, every reflection, every act of courage is to face your own fears, to contribute to a transformation to a more profound and long-lasting. It is as if we were digging through the layers. The innermost of is a mine of precious. Each discovery reveals a new part that is more authentic to who we really are, in essence, that many times it is hidden beneath the layers of insecurity or self-criticism. And in doing so, we take an important step to set us free from the bondage of invisible, which prevent us from achieving our full potential. Now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because they understand that our way of thinking, and it's a starting point, but it can also be the point of no return, brings us to a deeper reflection on the impact of these changes in the history of life. life. Every decision we make, however small it may seem, it has the power to set off a chain of events that might transform the impact you left on this world. And this change, in turn, influences not only our present, but also for the legacy that we want to build for the future. This is where the true essence of the change is revealed. It's not just a matter of improving what already exists, but to create something new, to reinvent yourself every day, challenge yourself to go above and beyond what is believed to be possible. Behind all of this, there's a truth that hides so many people don't realize that the biggest revolution is happening internally in your ability to make decisions, to reinvent themselves and embrace their own journey of transformation. It's a move that requires courage, perseverance, and an open mind. Challenge your own limiting beliefs. When we do this, we have become true agents of change, able to impress all around you with a new energy, a mentality that is stronger, and with a clearer picture of what's really important. And in the process, we have found that the greatest change is not outside, but within us, just waiting for you to make the decision to take the next step. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the real revolution happens when we believe that such a change in the interior is not something that happens by chance or by luck. It is the result of conscious choices and of the commitment of rewriting our history of mental well-being. Too often we carry the patterns of old, limiting beliefs that seem to be so deeply rooted that they seem a part of who you are, in fact. And this is where the magic of the transformation begins. When you identify these blocks, we can begin deconstructing them, asking about his origins, and more importantly, for choosing to replace them with the new ones, the narrative, the most empowering. On this journey, and the impact of our decision-making becomes even more apparent, because every choice we make, however small it may seem, it acts as a building block of a new reality. And to the extent that it's going to consolidate this new mindset, it is easier to see beyond the limitations of it before seemed to be insurmountable. It is as if a curtain was opened, revealing the possibilities that were previously hidden by the fog of fear or doubt. And in that moment, what seemed to be the impossible starts to seem only a matter of time and persistence. When you dive into the process of self-discovery, we also found out that the truth is hidden behind a lot of the difficulties standing in the way of how we think of our own obstacles. Oftentimes, we create stories that reinforce our sense of inadequacy, when in reality, they are only a reflection of the spirit that is in need of tuning. These findings, while sometimes painful, is essential so that we can move forward with more clarity and purpose. After all, to understand the behind the scenes of what prevents us from moving forward is the first step towards a change of the itinerary, which has been echoed in your head for years to come. And if you dig deeper, you realize that it's the power to transform not only of great deeds or for any drastic changes, but an enduring quiet in the small everyday decisions that add up to create a ripple effect. It's like planting a seed that, with time, it will germinate and transform the landscape around you. These seeds are some of our choices, our thoughts, and our actions. And the more aware we are of them, the greater will be the impact on our journey of growth. It is not for nothing that people often say that the key is not in the routine, the discipline to take care of themselves, to invest in our mental and emotional health. And here is where an important reflection. This transformation is about having the courage to face up to the truth, even when it hurts, or take everything that we believe it to be. Because it is often the vulnerable we find a higher power. When we come to face our own limitations, we began to see the opportunities that are hidden in the scene of the supposed weakness. And that's when the real change is consolidated, because we no longer have a victim of circumstances, and we become the authors of the assets of our history. From there, it's clear the impact that it is possible to generate not only depend on external factors, but in our provision of the internal turn every obstacle into an opportunity for growth. This is why this is a journey of self-transformation that is ongoing, in a sort of dance between what we are and who we can become. And at the same time, it turns out that what really matters is not only the goals, but rather that we become along the way. This internal evolution is the one that gives meaning to our actions, our decisions, and our vision for the future. And when you think about it, we realize that all the strength to continue comes from the realization that we are able to create a new reality, just need to decide to take that next step with courage and purpose. All I know is that at that time, a lot of people are beginning to feel a spark of hope and a desire to transcribe this script, which seemed to be so much. Because deep down, we all want a life that is more authentic, more in tune with who you truly are. And it is this pursuit of change. It's a journey that's never ending, ever evolving, ever deeper. It is like a seed which, when they receive the right care, it blooms in ways we never imagined. And then, when we look back, we realized how much we have come, even if the way is still long. Every step you take, every decision, every achievement is a testament to the change begins from the inside to the outside. And with determination, we can actually rewrite our history. He comments that, "I'm on this journey too. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth hidden behind this transformation. Many of the times, it's just the way we see ourselves and our own beliefs. It's like opening a door that we didn't even know existed, one that reveals a pool of opportunities that they've always been there, dormant, waiting for the right time for you to wake up. And then this moment comes, when we decided to take the first step, no matter how small, because they believe that each small action is a seed planted in the fertile ground of our minds. And in that mindset, the more you look for something intangible, it is, in fact, the engine that moves the whole of the journey of change. Over time, we learn that the choices they represent, in essence, the bridge between who we were yesterday and what we will become tomorrow. Each choice, no matter how simple it may seem, it carries the potential to impact all the way. It's as if we're steadily building a mosaic, where each and every piece, every detail, she reveals a part of our very essence. And, as more and more aware of these choices, the more aligned we are with our intention, the more powerful it becomes our inner strength to overcome obstacles. That's what's important to understand the behind the scenes of your own development, because it is not always what you see on the surface and reveal the complexity of the internal changes that take place. Many of the times, we are faced with a quiet strength, an inner voice that insists to tell us that we may not be able to, and that's the fear of failure is greater than the desire to move forward. And it is precisely at that moment that our way of thinking needs to be revised, because it is the field in which the conflict between the old and in with the new is happening. When we got to change this mindset, everything looks and feels more clear as much as possible. We have found that the truth is hidden behind the success. It is not just a technique or a strategy, but in the courage to face our own limitations, to break down the beliefs that trap and create a new narrative that moves us forward. This is a journey of transformation. It also shows that the impact we make on our world is a direct result of what happens on the inside. When we are aligned with our values, as we truly believe in our capacity for change, we can begin to attract the opportunities and people and experiences which before seemed to be unattainable. It was as if the universe is conspiras for, when we are truly committed to our development. With each revelation, each and every insight, it is a piece that fits in the giant jigsaw puzzle that is our history of growth. And at the same time, we've realized that in these scenes, the internal is the secret to the most valuable, because they shape our reality in a way that words can't explain it completely. The truth is that the transformation is not a linear path, not a roadmap ready to go. It's an adventure. It is about having the courage, perseverance, and a dose of humility is to recognize that there is still a lot to learn. And at the same time, this day is a great opportunity to get to know each other more deeply, to find out what really matters to you, and create a new version of ourselves that we are more in tune with our dreams, with the most authentic. The impact of this change will go beyond what we can imagine, and it echoes in every area of our lives, an influence from the simplest of decisions up to the big projects that we want to do. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the true magic of the transformation, is the ability to reinvent ourselves each and every day, to learn from our own mistakes, and to celebrate each and every accomplishment, no matter how small. It is during this process that we've found that the biggest key to a fulfilling life is not perfect, But the authenticity is being true to who you really are, even in the face of adversity. And in so doing, we can begin to understand that change is not something that happens from the outside to the inside, but it's something that is born within us like a seed that, with time, the flower and makes everything around it. He comments that it makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because it seems so simple in theory, it often becomes a real challenge in practice. The authenticity of this word, which seems to be so beautiful and at the same time it's so scary, it requires us to face our own skins, our fears. The more intimate of our doubts, the most quiet in operation. It is as if, during the course of your life, and it was piling on the layers of expectations to outside opinions and limiting beliefs, which over time they end up hiding who you really are. And then, when you try to reconnect with our inner selves, we see just how much of this process of liberation is. In fact, it is a journey of courage, resilience, and, above all, the autocompassion. The transformation, in this context, it doesn't come from one day to the next, or to make a radical change occurs only by a desire to do something different. She was born in the small decisions every day, the choices of whether to stay true to your values, even when the world around us seems to want to push you down a path that is easier or more accepted by society. It's in the news of the decisions that we make a new mindset, a way of looking at life from a more genuine, free from the shackles of judgment or the need to please. And to the extent that this idea is strengthened, we can begin to understand the impact of this type of authenticity that extends to every aspect of our lives, impacting our relationships, our careers, our emotional health. Understand that true transformation is a consequence of the change in its internal structure, leads us to reflect on the decisions we make on a day-to-day. Every choice, every action, every thought that is aligned with our essence, it is like a seed that sprouts and grows, fed by the courage to be who you really are. It reveals to us a truth that hides many times. The biggest obstacle to a fulfilling life, we are to ourselves. We cling to our own limitations, our insecurities, to the opinions of others, and so we ended up parked in a spot that is not in harmony with who we truly want to be. On the other hand, when you start to open up for such a voyage of self-discovery, we realize that the key to unlocking all that potential is in the mood to face the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. It's not about denying our own imperfections, but you accept it with love and compassion, knowing that they are a part of the process of growing up. It is as a transformation in which, little by little, to reveal a new version of ourselves, the stronger, more in tune, more real. And in this new version, we have to consolidate their influence all around, creating a sense of the positive impact that he has been with the people close to you, one that inspires others to break free from your own prison built in. Here comes the importance of understanding behind the scenes of the process, from getting to know what's happening on the back of our decisions and actions. Many times, what is stopping us from being ourselves is not a lack of courage, but a lot of the constraints that we have learned in the course of a lifetime, a legacy of a culture that values perfection. It's the success of the surface and the look and feel of the control. When we begin to understand these roots and built-in tools, you can start to challenge and dismantle these standards, opening up the space for true transformation, one that arises from the inside to the outside. And it is at this point that the day-to-day it intensifies as we came to understand that a change is an isolated event, but rather a continuum of the discovery of the small wins and learning together to build a new narrative to life. As we move forward in this way, it is clear that authenticity is not an end goal, but rather a daily practice. And it is this practice that requires us to be mindful of our emotions, our intentions, and our actions are always looking to align with what you believe in the truth. It is a kind of rewiring of the mental reprogramming, which is beyond words and is expressed in the choices we make more easy. When we do that, we realize that life is starting to be a different color, more vibrant, more real. And in the process, we have found that the most profound impact of all of is not on approval of the other, but the peace that comes from being true to who you really are. even if it means walking in the opposite direction to the one that looks like a more secure or convenient for you. And in that moment of reflection, as it is a question that will certainly cause a new layer of understanding, to what extent are we willing to give up the mask and embrace our own truth? Because you are, in essence, this is the most important lesson of this journey has revealed to us. The freedom to be who you are is the greatest gift we can give ourselves, as a gift to be unwrapped with courage and candor. She reveals a more complete, more light, and above all, authentic. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation happens when we begin to look beyond the surface and of the narratives that have been imposed upon. Often we are caught up in a series of decisions that seem to be automatic, as if our actions are to be determined by something external or a routine that is not asked for more. But in essence, it all starts in our mind, in the way that we interpret the world and ourselves. It is as if we have a lens that filters out the information that is shaping our perception of reality, and consequently, the actions that we take. This lens might be contaminated by the limiting beliefs, fear, self-doubt, or even to a kind of blindness and emotional, which prevents us from seeing the possibilities for real change. The impact of understanding these dynamics is very wide. When we begin to uncover the hidden truth behind our decision-making, we've noticed that a lot of them are but reflections of the old stories we tell ourselves, of course. The stories of those who often are not true, but it turned into a kind of a roadmap of the unseen, which we follow it without question. And it is precisely at this point in the journey, the transformation, and becomes an experience of freedom. To identify which of those narratives, built in, you can start to reascribe them to change the route of our own history. It is about having the courage, yes, but also a willingness to delve deeper into the backstory of the mind, to discover the roots of our emotions and understanding how they influence our actions on a day-to-day. In the process, it is common to encounter resistance because of a change to what is familiar, even if it's not positive. It takes work. For this reason, some people prefer to keep in your comfort zone, even though I know that it does not promote growth. The problem is that, over time, this resistance becomes a sort of invisible wall that blocks your progress. And there you have it. The idea of success, fulfillment, or happiness can only rely on the external factors, such as strengthening, reinforcing a kind of self-deception that we hold, when, in fact, the release happens from the inside out. To the extent that we were able to change our beliefs, our emotions, and the decisions that we make on the basis of that understanding. It's like opening a window which had been closed for years, letting in the light and illuminate paths to hidden. And then comes the question of the liability. Because when you understand who are the protagonists of our own story, we come to realize that the choices we make have a direct impact on our reality. Don't point the blame in the world, others, or circumstances, whether at the bottom, the change starts within us. Well aware of that, it's liberating, but it also requires an ongoing commitment to self-knowledge and the practice of the new way of life. Many times, this change did not happen all at one time or another. It's a process in which each made a conscious decision goes to the molding of the journey. It is as if we are building a new, strong, and resilient, so that on the basis of this, we can create a life more in tune with who you really are and what you want. And it is precisely this understanding that it is the power of true transformation. When you start to question all the truths that are hidden from the understanding of our deepest emotions and to take control of our decision-making, it all begins to fit together in a way that's more clear-cut. To our way of thinking, it becomes a tool for growth, not as an obstacle. With each step taken in this sense, it is a victory that brings us closer to the authenticity of this state of the fullness that you are searching. Still, the journey is fraught with revelations and often uncomfortable, but it's essential for anyone who wants to really develop. And then, at the end of the day, we realized that the impact is not on the outside, but inside us, transform our way of thinking, feeling, and acting. For this reason, it is important to remember that this search for the truth hidden, it is a continuous journey, a kind of holding steady in the direction of our own inner. And in doing so, we discover that the real freedom is to take who we truly truly are, without masks or justification. This authenticity is, in turn, radiates an impact not only our lives, but also in the way that we affect the world around us. When we are free of these shackles and invisible, we can see more clearly the path to what really matters, the one that aligns with our deepest values. And, in the process, the strength of our determination to become the fuel that drives us to keep on going, even in the face of challenges, the most difficult, because deep down, we know that it all starts with a decision. Is the decision to see beyond the lies and embrace the truth, more pure, more real, and more powerful. He comments that it makes no sense to me. And so, at the end of the day, we share it here, is the feeling that each and every step, however small it may seem, it has an important role in our journey. The truth is, when you decided to look inside and recognize our value, it all began to change. There is no magic formula, it's just the decision of whether or not to connect with the things that really matter and get on with courage, even when you are not sure. And it is for this reason that the interest in this content, you already show that you are on the right track. If you've read this far, I want to invite you to continue with this trade-off, because the one who comes in here might also make a difference in your daily routine. If you thought this video was helpful, leave a like. It is a way of showing that, in this connection, it makes sense for you, and this is the type of content you have on your journey. And if you will, comment below that, "I'm with you till the end," or "The message was for me." So we create an exchange in the next, and strengthens you in this journey of growth. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There is always something that can help you to see new possibilities, and to strengthen its quest for authenticity. In the next video, I have prepared for you complements all of that talk, and then click on its side and keeps me there as well. I am confident that together, we're going to keep on learning and improving one step at a time.